Okay, we're looking at 9.6 and the diode, and this is the diagram that's set up in the book for this. Um, Over here is our voltage source. I'm going to use my power supply to get us 6 volts one more time instead of the battery cases. Coming off the power source, I've got two pathways. We'll call the top pathway A and the bottom pathway B. Um, they're different only in the respect of which way the diode is facing in the circuit. And the essential question for this lab is, does diodes allow current to flow in only one direction? So if our charge is coming off of here and having the diode face this direction allows charge to go through and light this lamp up, but this lamp doesn't light up, then we know that when the diode is facing this direction, it doesn't allow current to go through. And vice versa. If the charge coming off is allowed to go through there and not allowed to go through there, then again we'll know which direction the diode has to be facing to allow current to travel. Or if both indicator lamps light up when we hook it up, then we know it doesn't make any difference which direction the diode is facing, because both lamps light up either direction. On this side we do have a capacitor, and the purpose of the capacitor for this is it'll allow us to reverse the direction of the current. Having two sources of charge in here beyond the diodes will allow us to see if we run current this way or we run current this way, what's going to happen. Down here we have another indicator lamp that'll just tell us that we've completed the circuit. And for purposes of reversing the charge, I'm going to run a jumper cable that will bypass the battery. So we'll just basically cut this voltage source out, which will drain our capacitor. And that will reverse the direction of the current. So that's the circuit that we're going to be looking at. And to the bench. Okay, so on the bench here, what I've done is, see if I can get my components back together. So we have a lamp here that we'll call lamp A, and that'll represent the top branch of that circuit that I just got done showing you. And here will be lamp B, which will be the indicator for current traveling through the B branch of that circuit. These lamps are, of course, hooked up to diodes, which are hooked in there. And just to help us out a little bit, I've got several multimeters hooked up. This one is going to measure the voltage on the capacitor, and this one over here will measure our amperage across the diode for A, and this multimeter will look at the amperage for diode B. All right, so I think we're ready to charge. Here is our positive from the power source, and we'll hook this up. And now what we're going to do is look and see if A or B lights up on charging the capacitor. 3, 2, 1, charge. All right, it's looking like A lit up and B did not. So going back to our chart, out of our voltage source, remember current had two pathways that it could take. The first pathway was A, and that's what we saw it did take, and B never lit up. So charge was inhibited from going this direction and only went this direction. Now we'll take note of which side this solid line on the diode is and see what happens when we reverse the current from our capacitor. We'll do that now. Running the bypass. 3, 2, 1. Okay, right there we saw that B lit up, A did not. So let's look at this one more time. And here we can see that, whoops, so here's my capacitor over here. So now it had two pathways to come back, this pathway or this pathway. And what we saw in this case was that, again, when the solid line was furthest from the opening on the diode where the current is entering and leaving, it was consistent with what happened when we come this direction where the solid line was furthest from where it's entering and closest to where it's leaving. So there's some consistency on that. Let's look at it on the meter, see if we can verify that. So for that, I'm going to take the A, I'll put that over here. B, I'm going to put that one over here. So I have A and B. Looks like my light is getting a little bright for being able to see that, but let's see if we can see it best. There we go. Hopefully it doesn't blind us out on that. Okay, charging in 3, 2, 1, charge. We can see that we have amperage on A when we're charging. Okay, and we'll discharge in 3, 2, 1, discharge. We can see that we have current running on B when we discharge. That's very consistent with what we expected from the light bulbs lighting up. And so there's a second indicator that diodes allow current to only travel in one direction on the circuit.